Hello there, very good evening and welcome to your Primetime News Bulletin with me, Shen Silva. Let's start off with a look at your headlines.
No decision or agreement on alliance at local government level between the President and Prime Minister. Former President speaks on local government poll victory. UNP hierarchy in critical talks. CID to question Palisena and Aloysius. Minister Theura Peruma explains his party's loss. Former Defence Secretary returns to the country.
On to your stories in detail now. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa convened a media briefing today.
While being in power, all they did during the election was carry out a mudslinging campaign. The people have given a clear decision to hold a general election and allow the people to decide. This is what we are asking for, and this is the message that has been given by the people. If you look clearly at the newspapers, it can be seen very clearly in the color of Korakkan. Even Elam has reduced, so you can see the Korakkan force that has been formed. There are some distortions in certain election results. In certain areas, those who were defeated have received more than those who have won. It was released with no accountability whatsoever late at night. The system they adopted increased the number of members to 8,000. It is a lot more than the system that was formed by Dinesh Gunawardena and Basil Rajapaksa. That system had about 4,000 members, while this has increased the number to 8,000. We will certainly support it. No, the government must ask for it. We will support it. If we bring the motion, they will oppose it. Why should we do that? If we wanted to get together with the UNP, we wouldn't have contested. We oppose the UNP and this government. We must have an election and elect a new government. We don't have the power as a party to form a government. We don't even have the opposition leader's position. Even our right to speak is limited. The JVP is allocated 6 hours, while we are given only an hour. The people have given a mandate stating that this is unfair. The people have answered this question. If we have the support of the people, what else do we need? No. Isn't it better for us to have an election and receive a mandate? We have no plans to conspire by moving one or two heads or by eating a string hopper or whatever else and then crossing over. We have no intention of doing that. We are ready to go into an election to listen to the will of the people. We are not in a hurry, but the people are in a hurry. That is why we want a general election. Of course, more people will join it. No, nobody has spoken to me yet. That is why I can talk like this without fear. A lot of people don't want to come near me because they know it is difficult for them.
Former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who had left the island for the US recently, returned to Sri Lanka this morning.
Newsfirst's airport correspondent noted that Gotabaya Rajapaksa returned to Sri Lanka on a flight from the United States via Dubai. Upon exiting the airport, Rajapaksa had this to say to the media. The importance of the president has been displayed to everyone. All of those who were deceived at the previous election, the people have said that they need the regime of President Mahinda Rajapaksa once again. Not as yet. No, I cannot. Since I am an American citizen, I cannot accept premierships. Should I be Prime Minister in a government like this? I have no role. There is nothing. Even the Commission has not understood what avant-garde is. There are no charges against me in this. The operation that I undertook brought foreign exchange and jobs to this country, and they destroyed all of that.
The Fourth Magistrate today granted permission for MP Namal Rajapaksa to travel overseas. The lifting of the ban is for the period between the 24th of this month and the 18th of May.
Accordingly, Fourth Magistrate Lanka ordered that the MP's passport be released temporarily. Rajapaksa had informed court that he is to attend a Commonwealth parliamentarian session and 2 youth conferences in the given period. The parliamentarian had his passport impounded due to ongoing investigations for allegedly misusing a sum of 70 million rupees given by Indian firm Krish for the purpose of the development of rugby.
Now, if this government recognizes shame, the President and the Prime Minister should dissolve Parliament. They can use their 2/3 majority to do this. If we are to dissolve Parliament, the members of the joint opposition will give 54 votes. No, we will continue. We think the judiciary must not be meddled with and the Attorney General must be allowed to carry out his duties. We would like to see the judiciary independent without meddling, without affecting outcomes and without ministers shouting out decisions on stage. We'd like to see the courts go on their own. We would also like to be cleared by the courts. Leader of the Democratic Left Front, Vasudeva Nanayakkara, convened a press conference today and expressed his thoughts on the outcome of the local government elections. What should happen now is that all forces against the UNP should come together in Parliament. We must dissolve Ranil's government and appoint a caretaker government and then get rid of his right-wing policies. The caretaker government then has a responsibility to dissolve Parliament with a 2/3 majority. We believe we should come together across party barriers to do this. If not, there will be serious instability. It is better to go for a free and fair election at this point than for the Podujana Peramuna to form a government. The best person to lead this caretaker government would be former Speaker Chamal Rajapaksa.
Chamal Rajapaksa mahata bava ape vishwasaya.
The former president should take leadership of our government, not a caretaker one.
Apema vu aanduwaka nayaka hati.
In your developing story tonight, the President's Media Division has issued a statement refuting media reports on purported agreements between the President that no such agreements or decisions have been reached between President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. Moving on, Minister of Finance and Mass Media Mangala Samaravira issued a statement today on the results of the local government elections and the future of the government.
In his statement, Minister Samaravira notes that on the 8th of January 2015, 51% of Sri Lankans voted to end dictatorship and re-establish democracy in Sri Lanka. He acknowledges in this statement that while the government promised to amend the constitution to restore independence to the public service and abolish the executive presidency, these promises were not fulfilled. He notes that the message given by the people has sunk deep into the United National Party. Samaravira adds that the same Mahinda Rajapaksa, who commanded 5.7 million votes in January 2015, was not even able to muster 4.95 million votes at the local government elections. He concludes that the UMP has a solemn duty not just to the 46% who voted for them and President Sirisena's SLFP on Saturday, but to all 6.1 million citizens who voted against a return to Rajapaksa rule.
Now, you heard what the President had to say. You heard how Minister Mangala Samaravira views this. Now, there was a meeting between the Prime Minister and his members of the party. That is, he met with the ministers, the cabinet ministers and non-cabinet ministers. He had a meeting with the deputy ministers and the state ministers, president, or rather the Prime Minister. Let's take a look.
We held an open discussion about the state of the country and the defeat that we faced. We anticipate some drastic changes to take place within the coming week. If these changes do not take place, then we will have to face some difficulty with regard to the public. We want to make the party, to create the required framework and move forward. The public have indicated a warning light to us, and we have taken note of it. If we do not take any action, we will have to face a lot of problems. We did not discuss matters to such a great extent. However, we did make it clear that issues like this cannot be solved by applying plasters. We have the strength to break away and form our own government. All UNP ministers attended the meeting. All UNP cabinet ministers took part in the discussions. Even the ministers who are not state ministers joined the meeting.
The people have voiced their decision. We intend moving forward down a secure and strengthened journey after having listened to the people and having understood their concerns. When you look at the results and the statistics, it is clear that we have a majority when you add the results with the other parties. If we were to have a very important election, such as a general election or a presidential election, then we would have a very clear percentage. However, we are going to be humble and listen to the decision of the people. The people have made known their decision and we will humbly listen to that decision. We are prepared to address our shortcomings and issues and move forward after having resolved such issues.
Now, deputy ministers and state ministers also had a meeting with the Prime Minister, that is Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. Let's see what they had to say after this meeting.
We discussed several issues. I said that we must respect the people's mandate. There should be major changes, else we will suffer an even greater loss. If we don't respect the people's wishes and reform the party, we cannot go on this journey. I believe that the President and the Prime Minister will reach a decision tonight. When we are informed of this, we can express our sentiments and take our own decisions. If you take our party, I told the Prime Minister that there is criticism about our party leadership. We must face reality. During J.R. Jayawardena's time, we saw a second tier, people like Premadasa, Atulat Mudali and Gamini Dissanayaka. I believe that there is an overall discussion among the party members. If we don't address it, we cannot find solutions to these issues. I don't know if it hurt the Prime Minister's feelings, but I told him not to take it personally. We should have this discussion.
Don't take it personally.
What are the main words to look out for in those statements that were delivered after discussions with Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe? The keywords that I heard were warning light, public mandate, then we need to face reality, and that this is not personal. These are the results of the local government election 2018. You see the Podujana Peramuna has 44.69%, UNP has 32.61%, UPFA and SLFP together they have around 15%. Now, this is the reality. What has happened to the United National Party? Now, there were many people in the country that this election result was a shock to. Many of the people thought that the UNP would coast to victory. Why? Because they were in power and because they held a majority of the key ministries that govern the economy of this country and that manage this country. So to them, this result might have been a shock. However, the people have thought otherwise. The people have voiced their concern and cast their ballot to oppose the white-collar criminals who are in the government at this moment. Now, we do not mean to say we told you so, but on multiple occasions we have highlighted the concerns of the public. We have highlighted the issues about these white-collar criminals, their bond transactions, the kickbacks they are getting from coal, from power plants, and so on and so on. And even you might have gotten tired of listening to these things. But the reality is that these are the problems that has plagued this administration. We told them that this was on the horizon. And instead of taking action, the powers that be, what did they do? They sought to protect their friends. They sought to protect their assets. And so they built a tight-knit ring around the United National Party, the inner circle, if you call it, with people who are close to the current Prime Minister. People like Kabir Hashim, General Secretary of the UNP, people like Malik Samaravikrama, people like Sujiva Senasinghe, people like Ajit P. Pereira. Now, if you may recall, this is the results again, once again. If you recall, this particular individual, Ranil Wickremesinghe, came out to voice his opposition when former President Mahinda Rajapaksa attempted to run for a third term in office, or ran for a third term in office. He said that these are the hallmarks of a blooming dictatorship. Now, why did he say these things? Is it because that he knows how a dictator acts? Is it because the United National Party may be under some sort of dictatorship? We do not know. But these are things that the people can think. That may be why Ranil Wickremesinghe wanted to come before the public and say, look here, these are signs of a blooming dictatorship. Now, what Deputy Minister Harsha De Silva said was partly right. We do need a social debate. We do need to listen to the public mandate. Let's take a look at the international examples that are present. The United Kingdom, the Westminster system, is something that Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe holds with great esteem. He often quotes the Westminster system and looks up to it, aspires to it even. What did David Cameron do when he lost the Brexit election? He stepped down from his position as Prime Minister. And mind you, Brexit was not an election. It was a referendum to see if the United Kingdom wanted to leave the European Union or not. Still, David Cameron opposed the move for Brexit. He lost, so he stepped down from the role of Prime Minister. There have been plenty of other examples of this nature. Now, the question is, why is this happening? We need to remind the people of someone who was once known as a freedom fighter. We are talking about Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe. He was a freedom fighter. But then what happened to him just a couple of months ago? He got greedy for power and remained in power for far too long, outgrew his popularity, and he had been dragged by the ear and put out by the general public. If this goes on, maybe this could happen in Sri Lanka as well. Now, the question is there democracy in the United National Party? Earlier, you heard the views of the ministers of the United National Party expressing their views. Then you heard the state ministers and the deputy ministers expressing their views. Why did they have separate meetings to discuss the matters pertaining to the aftermath of the local government elections? Why did they have the cabinet ministers and ministers separately, the deputy ministers and state ministers separately, maybe the parliamentarians separately? We have information from our reporters on the field that following the meeting with the state ministers and deputy ministers, the Prime Minister headed out for a meeting with the President tonight. So that is currently ongoing. Now, why is there so much secrecy? Why can't they do all this in the open? What does this mandate show? This shows that the people of this country have rejected the United National Party and its leadership. They have shown what happens when you get into bed with corrupt people, with rogues and with thieves. They may point the finger and say, well, you did it. Well, you need to keep in mind that what we do always is an attempt to create an educated discourse about what is going on in this country and what affects you as a viewer. Now, we may also venture out to say that they are the architects of their own demise through their own inaction against the voice, against the concerns of the general public. Yes, the Favabad or the Podujana Peramuna was victorious, but it's a stretch to say that this victory came simply because they were the best candidates that were out there. There were plenty of allegations against the members of the Flowerbud Party, which we ourselves have highlighted on numerous occasions. But given the option, the people will also do what they are so programmed to do. The people will always go for the devil that they know, not the devil that they don't understand. So this could be a reflection of that sentiment. With that being said, we now need to listen to a voice cut about the aftermath of the local government elections that was given to us by a senior journalist, Victor Ivan, who has been fearless in his fight against corruption.
ඇත්තටම මහජනයා මේ ආණ්ඩුව දැක්කේ කිසිම දෙයක් කරන්නේ දන්නේ
The
නැති.
people thought of this government as one which knows nothing, as one which can't achieve anything, and one which is weak. Last I saw the Prime Minister speak, he said that he will provide free Wi-Fi. That made me laugh a little. What will be more important to people would be to have the taxes levied on phone bills taken off. This is a joke. There is no deep understanding about society, and that is one of the reasons for this loss. In addition, he has no idea where he stands. When he spoke, he said there is no problem and that they would win. This has not happened.
Before we let you go, I want to turn your attention to one interesting statistic that we have. This shows the United National Party, the number of votes that they received, as well as the percentages in each corresponding year of election. If you look at the year 2000, you see 40%. Right before that, 1994, it was 44%. In 2001, when the United National Party was in power or came to power, they got 46% of the votes. Immediately after that, they got 38%. Then they went down to 29%. It did go up to 46%, but it seems like this trend has re-emerged once again. This is the election result that I told you about, 32.61%. These are according to our calculations. The Elections Commissioner is yet to release his final election results. The 29% that you saw in 2010, it's now awfully close to this value. How can the United National Party reverse this trend? Well, the day that the UNP backbenchers can come forward and voice their views freely, the day that the UNP bigwigs start listening to the matters that the people want them to hear, the day that they begin to understand the actual pulse of the people or the pulse of their rank and file who are today disillusioned, then the United National Party will begin to reverse its fortunes. I'm Ramesh Bandara from the Newsfirst Center.
Earlier last week, Newsfirst reported on the EU's decision to include Sri Lanka into the European Commission's blacklist of countries at risk for acts of money laundering. Over the weekend, the Daily Mirror reported, quoting sources, that CBSL's Financial Intelligence Unit would be taking steps to have Sri Lanka removed off the list by November. But the question remains, is it possible?
The Daily Mirror, quoting a top official at the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, reported that they had agreed to implement an action plan to strengthen the effectiveness of Sri Lanka's anti-money laundering counter-terrorist financing measures. It also noted that the FIU is doing its utmost to address and implement the action plan objectives by November. The article further notes that there are many ministries and government agencies that are involved in implementing these measures and regulations, and that they need the fullest cooperation of all these institutions to help Sri Lanka get removed from the grey list of FATF. The EU vote on naming Sri Lanka as a blacklisted country came on the heels of the FATF's decision to include Sri Lanka into its list of high-risk and monitored jurisdictions. It has been reported that the FATF action plan was taken up for discussion by the Cabinet Committee for Economic Management, or CCEM, chaired by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe on the 3rd of January. Sri Lanka has multiple ministries dealing with banking and financial regulations. Among them are the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of National Policies and Economic Affairs, and the Ministry of Public Enterprise Development. Given that November would be the final gathering of the FATF for 2018, how likely is it that Sri Lanka will be able to meet its commitments on money laundering? When News First put this question to Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, Governor of the Central Bank, and the ex-officio Chairman of the National Coordinating Committee, the Governor said the Central Bank has an action plan to meet the requirements of the FATF and is confident they will be met by November. Dr. Kumaraswamy will be disappointed if this is not achieved, however cannot give a guarantee as several ministries and parliament are involved. The governor clarified Sri Lanka is on the FATF grey list. This automatically puts the country on the EU blacklist of countries at risk for money laundering.
Former Mayor of the Hambantota Municipal Council, Eraj Ravindra Fernando, announced that the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna and the United People's Freedom Alliance will form a coalition in the Municipal Council to establish a majority.
In Saturday's local government election, the United National Party won the most seats in the Hambantota Municipal Council, winning 9 wards. However, as this does not establish a clear majority, it is possible for the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, which won 7 seats, and the UPFA, which won 4 seats, to establish control of the Municipal Council.
On the instructions of His Excellency the President and former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and our electoral organizer, former Speaker Chamal Rajapaksa, we are holding talks with our former Mayor Eraj Ravindra Fernando on taking over of the Hambantota Municipal Council and to not to allow the United National Party to appoint a mayor. We contested from the United People's Freedom Alliance under the leadership of His Excellency the President Maithripala Sirisena. We are happy about our victory. There was a massive wave for the Podujana Peramuna. The people of Hambantota won 4 seats for the Podujana Peramuna, especially for my ward. I thank the people of Hambantota for this. Nevertheless, the UNP does not have a majority in the Hambantota Municipal Council. Regardless of what and how you say it, on the day the Hambantota Municipal Council is established, I am certain that I will be appointed as the mayor with the support of both the ruling and opposition members for a clean administration.
The 4th Magistrates Court today issued a written order to the Superintendent of the Valikada Prison to allow the Criminal Investigations Department to obtain statements from Arjun Aloysius and Kasul Pallisena.
He has informed court that they need to obtain a statement from the 2 suspects as part of the ongoing investigations into the 2015 bond issuances. 4th Magistrate Lanka Jaratna ordered the Valikada prison to make arrangements for the suspects to provide their statements on the 13th, 14th and the 15th of this month.
Police media spokesperson SP Ruwan Gunasekara convened a media briefing to inform the public on incidents of election violence.
The election was conducted in a very peaceful environment. 668 suspects were arrested in raids and following complaints lodged during this period. There are 85 candidates among those who were arrested. I mentioned the total number of arrests that were made during this period. If there are candidates in custody who have won, they will lose their seats if the court finds them guilty. If they are found guilty, we will inform the Elections Commission.
And that's a look at your primetime news bulletin for tonight. Thanks a lot for joining me. I'm Sharon Silva. Take care and good night.